This is Mzanzi. We do things our own way. 1st of July, transfer window open. PLS, Clint, welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me, Tampoza. It's good to be here.
But in South Africa, uncles, aunties, everybody can be an agent at any given time. Why FIFA is in your identity?
Look, I think it is to protect the integrity of the industry. I think now, and also just to make sure that the clients within the space, being football clubs and football players, get well-informed advices.
So, a little tape about Malume.
Well, I mean, there's a lot going on in the market. You need to have the know-hows of the regulations and what happens in the industry. So FIFA is just trying to find a way to make sure that everybody's protected.
Who's this chap that's saying these things? Clint, who are you in terms of what is it that you do because it's important that we then say what gives you the authority. Because maybe there was an uncle's test. Uncles we protest mahadi, kawisha melatu, What do you do, company and football?
Just briefly, I'm Clinton Mphahlele, known as PLS on the Twitter streets, and Friday within my hometown. I'm a practicing attorney, and I'm a licensed FIFA football agent and founder of One to Infinity, which is the agency.
Practicing attorney. Yeah. In the past, it used to be, if you're an attorney, you're good to go. Yeah.
With the new FIFA agent regulations, everybody has to sit in for the exams, especially those that were not previously accredited with the previous regime. So I had to sit for an actual FIFA agent exam that is written globally on the same day across the world. And yeah, fortunately, I managed to pass.
What did test?
Exam.
Same day.
Mapampir.
Lufuno. Wala test. Akere wabona jole kaba kala Lufuno is more white hair than everybody else. What's wala test, chief?
I say everybody into them. Zara look at party abo maluma. Wana abo maluma reno kinyaka stulu saka sieda. So it's good because PLS is here. As much as nakinyaka mchana ayemole, PLS must sort out the nitty gritty, you know. Harabatli matatas. PLS are looking at the pampir and total Samaika.
But a transfer in South Africa is very unique. Yeah. We don't only transfer players, we transfer teams. You can be, we had Marumo Gallens who was in the NFD, now they've transferred to the senior team. Yeah. From a player's perspective, PLS, what is the process and let's start with an ordinary transfer. We will say, I can't say Sundowns, I'm not coach. We will start with, there's a player whose contract has come to an end. The role of an agent in that process.
So firstly, would be to sit down with your client to try and understand where his thinking space is. With football players, it's obviously almost at every single point in time obvious that they'll be looking for a new job. But football players also have families, have lives, and you try and understand what is the best pathway. Do they want to stay in a particular province? Are they happy to relocate? And then just to have that discussions to understand where they are ready to play, their remuneration level.
Their remuneration is important.
You have to maximize, earning capacity of the player during their playing days. So just to try and understand where the player is and what type of opportunities the player is looking for. And then once that is the case, then you go find opportunities for the player in the market.
So this is when we hear so-and-so has been offered.
That's
right. They were offered everybody, everybody. But then when you then go through that, now there's a player at Club X. In this case, we will say, Bolufuno got Chiefs. Relax, I do. Yeah, no. So you now have a player X who Kaizer Chiefs is looking for, but he is now sitting at, can't say Morocco Swallows is gone. He's now sitting at Polokwane City. That process, do I phone the player first? Just a rundown on that process so that it's done where everybody's happy.
So in terms of the transfer market is regulated by the NSL handbook in South Africa, where players are contracted, they can only move between clubs during the transfer window, which we're currently in South Africa. This window is open from the 1st of July until the 20th of September. So during this period, that is the period when contracted players can move between clubs, but the negotiations for those transfers can happen at any time. But the process, from a procedure point of view, under the NSL handbook, the club that is interested in the player...
Handbook, man, handbook.
A club that is interested in a player would have to notify the club where the player currently is in writing. That doesn't mean they have to get their consent or permission to talk to the player, but they just have to notify them that we are interested in this player and we are interested in getting to understand what they are looking for.
Because Clinton, we make sure we live here really informed. Nasela ka utla player bang cheli zone but high. Exactly. Those type of things they allowed.
I mean, obviously, no player can go play for a club without ever signing an actual contract with the club. So even if you're told that you are going elsewhere, I would think you would enter into negotiations with that club and reach some sort of agreement between that club that you are supposedly supposed to go to.
I arrived in the morning to train, they said, "Wena, hug." Look, and then looking at that, and this is why I say South Africa is unique, because you've got clubs that have transferred. We know, I mean, I can't say famous stories, but it was a sad story where you had Bloemfontein Celtics bought by Royal AM. We had clips and we saw videos of the owner saying, everybody, if you want to play, move now. How does then the FIFA rules and the regulation when it comes to the transfer from a club to status, how does that then work?
So obviously football is an industry within the legal framework of South African football, of South African law, I should put it like that. So the soccer players are themselves employees, like I am to a particular company that I'm working for. So in terms of the Labor Relations Act, when a business is transferred as an ongoing concern, that's deep law stuff, but just when a business is sold to another business, the employees must transfer automatically, the employment contracts transfer automatically to the new club, which basically means from a status perspective, when a club buys the status of another club, those contracts of the status that's being bought transfer automatically to the new club. I mean, you can enter into different agreements to make sure that those contracts do not pass with the likes of SAFPU and the players in particular, especially where the player doesn't want to move to the new club. And then enter into such agreements. But the starting point is that those contracts automatically pass to the purchaser.
Yeah.
Marumo Gallants, Swallows. Marumo Gallants says Limpopo, Mara they play in Bloemfontein. Linda guy is the player.
They haven't played in Bloemfontein for a while, if you check correctly. The offices are in Polokwane. That's where they're actually based. It's just unfortunate we don't know now in the...
Yeah, because I saw there's going to be updates. They're going to be addressing all these issues.
Yes, we don't know now when
the future.
Yeah, when they come in back into the DSTV Premiership, where they will be based. You can be based anywhere. I mean, Babina Noko, they train in Joburg, but they play in Polokwane. Their games, all our games are playing in Polokwane for resources and all other reasons. So the same way as Marumo Gallants. We'll have to wait for their announcement to tell us what's happening and where they're going to be playing and are they going to change the name or they'll keep their name. All those nitty-gritties, let's wait for them to tell us what's happening.
Clint, nalimatata. Kasi Zulubari indlu yekaku yaneta. You represent players. Is it only players? Because I think Nali Cox would like to have a conversation. Our team, Mamelodi Sundowns, has got no coach, Chief.
Well, we do, at One to Infinity in particular, we do provide club side services, which include talent identification, player divestments, just being able to assist clubs to identify which players can be sold, understanding the market from an agency perspective to know that other clubs are interested in certain positions, and you can put up certain players, your players onto the market to generate some revenues, because we understand football clubs need revenues to work, and player transfers can get you a lot of
Clint, from my side, I just want to understand from your role in terms of where recently we had on the news that players were told this morning they were called in and said, no, we're not going to renew your contract, you can leave. What is your role as an agent, knowing very well that from 6 months prior to contract to elapse, you are able to now start looking for employment for your player?
I think every situation needs to be looked at with the facts that you're dealing with, because no two contracts are ever identical, really.
Yeah.
So within the South African space, so from a regulatory perspective, players that are in the last 6 months of their contract can engage other clubs and sign a pre-contract.
Oh, is that according to FIFA or Rekika decide that?
That is according to FIFA.
Oh.
Players 6 months to engage and sign a pre-contract. So from the start of the year in South Africa, you can sign a pre-contract. But what we usually see within the South African space is they are negotiated positions because there is no prohibition for as to when a club must exercise their option. So a negotiated settlement between the player and the club generally is that by the 30th of May or 30th of March, some even push it very late into June, you afford your club an option to extend your stay with the club, and that obviously would kind of limit how you negotiate in the market. You'd remember there was a case of a player that signed a pre-contract before, that allegedly signed a pre-contract before their current club exercised their option, and then they exercised the option, and then you find yourself at risk of having two valid contracts at the same time.
There's a lot of risk there by Lufuno, because people were asked not to sign contract because there's a new coach that is coming. After the break, we will get into how do we deal with youngsters that are coming into professional football through transfers and all those things, because it's important that parents know where to go and how to be able to navigate that space, because if not, I am that malume who will sign a contract for the youngster.